and welcome back to City and County Credit Union's Money Lessons for Kids. I'm Lucy and I'm so excited that you're joining me today. We have a really fun story time lesson that we're going to be reading through together today. But before we jump into our story, let's go ahead and grab all the supplies that you're going to need for today's lesson and for your at-home activity. So the very first thing that you want to grab is a pair of headphones, especially if you have anybody hanging around that doesn't want to follow along on this lesson with us. And then for your at-home activity, you'll want to grab a piece of paper and something to color with. Now that could be colored pencils, markers, crayons, whatever you have at home will work great. So go ahead and grab those supplies and then come back and join me and we'll read the story together. Welcome back. For today's story time activity, we're going to be reading This Little Piggy Saved Some. And this story is by Lance Douglas. There once lived 5 little piggies. Their mother gave each of them 10 pennies, and she sent them to town for a day of fun. "Don't spend all of your pennies," their mother shouted as she waved goodbye. Around the first bend in the road was a wagon full of freshly picked corn. The first little piggy loved corn. He quickly gave the farmer his 10 pennies for an armful of delicious corn. He was so happy. Soon the little piggies came to a mud hole full of other little piggies playing and having fun. The second little piggy could not help himself. 10 pennies was just what he needed to join his friends in the mud hole. He was so happy. When they got to town, the third little piggy saw a bright new hat for sale. He loved to wear hats. And 10 pennies was just what he needed to buy the new hat. He was so happy. The town was full of fun things to do. 10 pennies was exactly what the fourth little piggy needed to ride the Ferris wheel. It was so much fun, and he was so happy. The last little piggy loved corn, and he loved to play in the mud too. He also loved hats, and the Ferris wheel looked like so much fun. But he kept thinking about what his mother had said to them as they were leaving for town. "Don't spend all of your pennies." So the last little piggy bought some corn, but only one. He loved the mud, but he decided he could wait until it rained. His hat at home was old and worn out, but it fit just right. And the Ferris wheel scared him just a little. It had been a long day. After returning home, the 5 little piggies were very tired. They had so much fun in town. The little piggies fell asleep dreaming about how much fun they had spending their pennies, except for the last little piggy. He proudly placed the pennies that he saved into his piggy bank. Every year, their mother would send the 5 little piggies to town for a day of fun. And every year, the last little piggy would add more pennies to his piggy bank. Many years later, after the little piggies were grown up, the farmer came to the 5 little piggies and said, "I am too old to take care of my large cornfield. For 10 pennies, you can buy my entire field. It will provide you with all of the delicious corn you will ever need." The first 4 little piggies looked at each other in confusion. They had no pennies left. Each year, they had spent every penny their mother had given them. But each year, the last little piggy had saved and saved and saved. "Sure," said the last little piggy. "I would love to buy your beautiful cornfield." and he was so happy. The end. Now, today's storytime activity talked a lot about saving. And remember, there are 3 things that we can do with our money. We can save it, we can spend it, and we can share it. And we're going to talk about why saving our money is so important. In the story, we saw that our friend the little piggy, he saved his money a little bit at a time so that when the time came for him to make a big purchase, like buying the cornfield, he had enough money saved up to be able to do that. And the same is true for you. Whether you're saving up to buy something big like a bike or a scooter, or maybe something small like an ice cream cone, or my favorite, a donut, it's really important to set a little bit of money aside every single month for those purchases that might come up in the future. Now, on the other hand, it's also a good idea to set some money aside for the unexpected things that might happen. Now, let's say you're outside at recess and you lose your mittens. That's something that we have to have here in Minnesota for our winters. So when that happens, it's a good idea to have money set aside so that we can go out and buy a new pair of mittens when that unexpected event happens. Now, one place where you can save your money for the short term is in your piggy bank. Your piggy bank is a great tool to have at home. You can just put your coins in here right at the top. And when it's full, you can bring this down to your credit union and you can take the money out of your piggy bank and put it into your savings account for safekeeping for the long term, so when you're saving up for those big purchases. Now, for today's at-home activity, I want you guys to start thinking about piggy banks, and I want you to color a picture of your dream piggy bank, whatever that might mean to you. Maybe it's an octopus or an elephant, maybe it's a piggy, but I want you to draw whatever that dream piggy bank looks like to you, and then send a copy of your photo to us at social@cccu.com. Thanks for joining, everyone, and we'll see you next month.